and the archives he swore were closed for cataloging. The calendar square arrived at 6:10 p.m. as neat as a call slip. Cultural Heritage Gala, Municipal Archives late. 2 minutes later, Jonah texted, "Don't wait up. Director wants me to peek at a climate alarm in the closed stacks after speeches. Proud of me." Read he spends the heart when the rest of the sentence is applying for diplomatic immunity. I turned the soup down to the kind of simmer that calls itself maturity and looked toward the river. The archives building sat like a solved problem. Limestone, lamps, a pediment tired of adjectives. The square on my phone pulsed once and then behaved. I rinsed an already clean spoon because sometimes unnecessary is the only honest verb available. At 6:27, a number I didn't recognize sent a message that recognized me anyway. If the gala's in the reading room, why did he just badge the service elevator and go down to close stacks 3? Doc Dorkay reader hates witnesses. Cover it and lean. I can hold sweep 2 minutes. Signed with a single letter, R, as if the alphabet had leaned on a book truck and promised not to rattle. Rowan runs nights below street level with the kind of patience that convinces paper to be brave. He and Jonah trade competence in a dialect of locks and light. He and I have shared 2 cigarettes in the delivery bay, and once a laugh sharp enough to make a camera blink like glass had learned embarrassment. We have not touched. I remember not touching more clearly than most men remember vows. "Why tell me?" I wrote. "Because your calendar is polite and my badge logs aren't," he sent. Because he looked up before he swiped. People only look up there when they want oxygen. Because closed for cataloging is keep out, the way champagne is hydration. The freight elevator breathed like an apologetic animal. The basement corridor had the color of compliance and the smell of old glue. Closed stacks 3 presented itself with a door that had opinions. My palm over the red eye and a lean made it reconsider. The temperature stepped down like a lecture hall. The rows opened one by one, metal and shadow, and the kind of quiet that knows your name. He was where Rowan said he'd be. At a junction of aisles, jacket off, shirt open one button past credible, tie rolled into his pocket like a plausible denial. Opposite him leaned Marcus Hale, developer, board vice chair, roomer with a townhouse and a thesis. 2 of Marcus's fingers rested on the end cap as if steel owed him interest. The other hovered near Jonah's wrist without landing, because proximity photographs better than contact when your brand buys history and invoices discretion. "Closed looks conversational," I said. Jonah turned. For a beat the truth used his face like glass before it reflects. Then the public version arrived, posture, breath, the tone you practice when men in tuxedos confuse the past with personal property. "Caleb," he said. "I how did." "Rowan likes nouns," I said. "I like doors." Marcus smiled in the register of benefactors. "We were reviewing a censor fault," he said. "Patrons delight in hearing how memory is kept alive." "I prefer memory that doesn't need an audience," I said. Jonah took 1 step toward me and let the stacks keep the second. "We were listening for a glitch in the airflow," he said. He wanted to hear the room without speeches. "Sound is persuasive," Marcus said, opening both hands like tasteful parentheses. 2 minutes. The sweep is punctual, my driver is patient. He drifted toward a bank of binders labeled in handwriting that deserved polite applause. As he passed, 2 fingers tapped Jonah's shoulder, punctuation, not possession. Jonah watched me the way men watch weather when they hope thunder is practicing restraint. "I was going to text you," he said, lower now, in the register he keeps for mornings and the soft under my jaw. "After. I wanted to know I could leave this room without letting it rename me." "You wanted to be caught," I said. "Not punished, caught." He let one breath out, and the shelf opposite leaned its patience closer. Yes. There is a temperature at which grammar resigns. I stepped into his space and put my mouth on his because paper deserves honesty and dust deserves witnesses. He kissed back with the relief of a man who has been paying interest on restraint, compounded nightly by applause and practice. He tasted like Gala bourbon and the librarian's soap that never forgets its job. My thumb found the hinge of his jaw and pressed. He made the small, involuntary sound I keep receipts for. His palm slid under my shirt and settled flat between my shoulder blades like a promise that refuses notarization. We didn't undress. The stacks charge extra and cameras learn quickly. He broke the kiss first because he knows the exact second heat applies for narrative. He put his forehead to mine. A blower sighed like a confession that wanted to be forgiven in advance. I didn't kiss him, he said. I wanted to want to. I texted Rowan. You did, I said. He prefers oxygen to salvage. Marcus tilted his head the way men do when they think good deeds buy the right to narration. He didn't approach. The labels minded their alphabet. Come home, Jonah said. After I thank the person who hears doors, I said. Rowan waited at the far end of the aisle where the exit sign glowed like a whisper. Lanyard looped over 2 fingers, the patience of someone who makes rules feel chosen. He didn't smile. He also didn't make mercy expensive. Sweep hit stacks 3 in 90, he said. If you don't want to explain your lives to a flashlight that knows your shoes, take the binder cart lane to microfilm, cut through conservation, out via receiving. The doc cam believes every pallet is a pallet. You sent the message, I said. I opened a door, he said. You two remembered how to walk. Microfilm hummed like a polite conspiracy. Conservation smelled like solvents that had learned to be humble. Receiving was rain in training. We chose sidewalks over lobbies because lobbies write captions. At home, the soup forgave me for confusing patience with character. We ate standing, like mammals who know where the bowls live. He told me Marcus had been sculpting a compliment into a proposition for weeks, and he had helped because selection feels like love when usefulness empties your pockets. I told him Rowan had texted because some people choose air over alibi. He didn't ask whether Rowan and I had ever been a worse idea. I didn't say how a green exit light turns Rowan's mouth into punctuation that finally understands itself. We didn't fight. There wasn't theater left to sell. Later, in bed, we left a sliver of cool like a reservation and then let it surrender because the night had already billed us for restraint. He kissed me with the steadiness I trust more than policy. I put my mouth where his jaw goes humble and told it a morning. It was heat without spectacle. The building minded its radiators. The archives pretended to forget our names and we assisted. Morning behaved. Coffee made its case. The calendar square for tonight stayed blank, which in this city is the kink we can afford. Jonah tied a tie over a throat I intend to retire with patience and kissed me like the door already knew our names. He left to explain continuity to a breakfast that confuses cabinets with truth. At 9:16 a text arrived from a number saved as one letter. No stack cam saw anything but labels. I looped an airflow log for 20. Consider it training. R.I. sent, you're very proud of your training. He replied, I'm proud of your exit. No punctuation correct. By noon, a society blog posted Marcus haloed in champagne beside a photo of the reading room, captioned with stewardship and memory. I scrolled past. It wasn't our room. At 1:22, Jonah texted a picture of our kitchen plant basking in a dutiful square of sun. Room exists, he wrote. The week pretended to be a finding aid you could trust. Marcus sent a revised pledge with fewer adjectives and more commas. Jonah read until the commas began to behave like a harness and set it face down. He pressed his forehead to my temple for 7 quiet counts. The air remembered its work. 2 nights later, the archives hosted Night in the Stacks, honest wristbands, real families, children learning that paper needs climate and care. We went together, because sometimes the correct grammar is plural. Rowan nodded once from a shadow like an usher who doesn't audition for gratitude. Marcus shook Jonah's hand while a photographer tried to make linen tape confess. A reporter asked about legacy. Jonah pointed to a conservator kneeling to show a boy how to mend without scolding and said, "Legacy is what keeps rooms gentle." And the reporter wrote it down like she'd earned a truth. On the walk home, we cut along the canal where lights practice secrecy. Jonah slid 2 fingers into my back pocket in the way that says not mine but here, and the night did the decent thing and looked away. We burned the bread and ate it anyway. At the bedroom door, he kissed me the way good sentences land, without ornament, unavoidable. I answered as if verbs were the last honest currency. It did not stay tidy. It never does here. An anonymous account posted a grainy still from a corridor cam, 2 silhouettes between metal and breath, one hand too near to be polite. The caption invented entanglement, the comments rented outrage and billed by the breath. I set my phone face down beside the plant and watched the plant win. Jonah texted a different image. Conservation at noon. Rowan showing a teen volunteer how to mend a spine while a hygrometer confessed contentment. Our version works for a living, he wrote. Sunday arrived with rain that knew its job. Rowan texted, "Stacks are quiet. Want a stool where nobody sells you a seat?" We went. He poured us paper cups of coffee that tasted like competence and showed us which sensor lies first, why you never trust a door that apologizes, and the faint shift in whisper that means the air wants kindness. He didn't flirt with anything, not even the truth. He stood with his hands in his jacket pockets and told us a joke about rich men who think memory is a metaphor. I liked him better for refusing to be necessary when he didn't need to be. Midweek, the Foundation staged a press moment to announce fellowships for archival apprentices. Jonah spoke first, about bolts and volunteers and the joy of maintenance, the only speech that ages correctly. Marcus promised to help the city meet its hours on time, a sentence that managed to spend nothing and still collect applause. After, he shook Jonah's hand and then looked at me with the careful respect of a man evaluating whether he cannot purchase. "You're both very good at exits," he said. "Practice," I said. He laughed because it was the only honest thing left on his card. A columnist with an adjective habit suggested Jonah's access came courtesy of private tour. The piece included a photo of shelves that could have been any shelves and a paragraph that could have been any rumor. The comments did their choreography. I carried the plant to the sink and let water talk to its roots like a promise we could keep. That night, we turned our phones face down and cooked like people who still believe heat tells the truth. On a windy Thursday, Rowan sent a single word, weather, and we met him by the delivery bay where rain negotiates with stone. He showed us which drain floods first, where to stand when lightning auditions near vents, and how to hear the subtle hesitation that means the fire damper will miss its cue without kindness. He didn't ask about the photo. We didn't say his name out loud. 3 people wide beneath a building that decided to forgive, we let the storm remove adjectives we didn't need. Life kept refusing to be purchased. Marcus kept sending commas that wanted homes. Jonah kept returning them with better ones. The plant kept inventing a shade of green that turns vanity domestic. We kept our calendar squares blank on purpose, because blanks are the only promises rooms respect. Sometimes, near midnight, we walk past the archives and look up. From the street you can't see the rail where 2 fingers hovered like a claim that declined to become a fact. You can't see the small, decent posture of a man who teaches heavy air to be gentle. You can only see a disciplined glow pretending not to belong to anyone. That's as it should be. We circle the block and go home without letting the building perform at us. He takes my wrist like a man reteaching himself the grammar of doors. I think about the stacks and the 2 minutes that were enough, about how some rooms try to own you and others teach you how to leave correctly. Sometimes I think about Marcus paused by a label like a man who wants to buy air and discovering it doesn't invoice. Sometimes I think about Rowan's line, "I opened a door," and how it's the only biography I want for this version of us. Tonight's square is empty. We're leaving it that way. Let the archives keep their custody and the city its applause. We have the receiving bay, a plant we refuse to let die, and the quiet grammar of a decision that knows where it belongs. Not in the rumor, not in the photo, but in the mouth that learned to say come home and mean it. If we get caught again, let it be by each other. The rest of the world can rehearse memory. We'll be in the room that doesn't need it, counting breaths until they sound like climate settling into kindness, and a morning we can afford, and calling that enough.